transplant journey. We'll start with Skylar.
Hello.
There you go.
Hello. Okay, so I had my bone marrow transplant. I had a bone marrow transplant in January of 2021. I know he's here right now, but I didn't know my donor beforehand, so I met him 2 years after I had my transplant, which is why I need to get permission to meet them. I had my transplant right in the middle of COVID, which has its own perks because I'm not the only one wearing a mask afterwards. But obviously,
I never thought about that.
it creates a lot of challenges. That actually wasn't my original donor. My original donor got COVID and my transplant got pushed back. Fortunately, only a day later because Lev was willing to donate right away, which was really awesome. But yeah, I had my transplant about 5 years ago now, and I'm doing really good now. I'm really glad I was able to meet my donor, and weirdly enough that he lives so close to me because I've had other families who's had transplants and their donors live in other countries. So the fact we live in the same city was pretty crazy.
That is crazy. All right, let's hear from Lev a little bit. So let us tell us a little bit about the process of actually donating. You might need to keep the microphone.
It was, wow. It was kind of surreal.
Yeah.
And everything from the time I first got the phone call until I was called down to Washington, D.C. to donate, which by the way was 1 week after the Capitol riots. And the city was
So
shut
that
down.
was a little
It
interesting.
was very interesting. We were surrounded by Secret Service, and we stayed right next to the Vice President's apartment. It was exciting.
Wow, yeah.
But also, yeah, everything went very quickly, and it was a relatively easy process. And I did a surgical bone marrow donation, so I stayed at the hospital. And so from start to finish, the whole experience, like the donation experience, was 2 weeks long.
Okay.
And
And how was the recovery afterwards?
recovery was pretty easy. I was a little sore in my lower back, and a little fatigued because it took a lot of on me. But after about a month, maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I was completely 100%.
Awesome. And it is something that literally helps to save their life.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's hard to separate like contribution to a stranger the fact that have no sky. So, and yeah, that's the best
And
part
you
of
guys
all
live
of
in the
this.
same city.
Yeah, when I learned where she lived, I was like, I know your exact lot because you're a mile from my house. It was pretty
Oh,
wild.
crazy.
Yeah.
And is it typical for donors to have to go to Washington D.C. or was there a reason for that?
That's where I was supposed to.
Oh, okay.
There are centers all over the country. I think there's one in Houston, there's one in Florida, there's one out in Washington.
Okay.
And so it
Depends on the location. Okay. And then this can be either of the two of you or both of you, maybe one too. But are there any things that you think of that maybe people aren't aware of about the donation side or the recipient side of the experience? That you like to at least do a little bit?
It's a really swabbing for an NMDP is really easy. The process for what you can actually do for somebody is really simple and does not require a whole lot of work. And then you get to do really, at least for me, was really the most meaningful thing I've ever done. And the reward is pretty incredible for a relatively easy process. So I couldn't be happier. Skylar have gone through this process. I highly recommend it. It was
And people can get their swabs done at another table. I got tons of pictures of me today at the event too. So that's an important fact that anyone that's here today can go to that table and just start that part of the process. What about you, Scott? Do you have anything that you'd like to speak to about the donation itself that maybe people are unaware of?
Yeah, Yeah, I think one thing that's not really understood in compared from bone marrow compared to like organ transplants is the recovery process is different. I wouldn't say one is harder than the other because I've never been through an organ transplant. However, I basically was given a completely new immune system, so I like to compare it as kind of I was like a baby for a while. I had to start all over again. I had to get all my vaccinations all over again. I'd be really careful to make sure I wouldn't get sick or anything. And I think that even though, yes, the donor does have to go through some steps, and there is like physical, components involved in the actual donation process, I do think that from the recipient side of things, there's a lot more, it's a lot more timely than it ever will be for the donor. Like it took me a year and a half to fully recover from my transplant, meaning like get my immune system back to what it was supposed to be like and what it was before I had gotten sick. So I think that's just like important to consider of like when you're considering donating of like if you're hesitant because of maybe the effects that it might have on you for a short-term period of time. The time is a lot different for the actual recipient, and even then, the more people that we have on the registry, the better chance you are a match for that person, and then the less likelihood that the recipient is going to experience any like complications. So I was really lucky. I didn't have any like rejection or graft versus host after my transplant, which was great, but there's a lot of people out there who don't even have a match yet. So I would really say if you aren't registered to be a donor, I would highly recommend it, and just to learn more about it, because you can save a lot of people's lives without necessarily realizing it. Like health issues can affect people of all different ages and backgrounds. It's not really set to a specific person or population.
Yeah, and also when you see people that have a mask on, there's some people that might, think it's still because of COVID, and that person might be still wearing a mask because of their fear of getting COVID, and that's completely fine. But it also might be from someone that's an organ recipient or a bone marrow recipient. So I think it's important to respect those people's decisions to wear a mask for their own protection, no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah, I would say never really judge a book by its cover. We're kind of all taught that when we're a kid, but I think it really applies to when you're looking at other people and you might think, wow, they look perfectly healthy. Chances are that they might have something going on, and that could be really different for them. So I just say don't judge a book by its cover, and really consider the fact that like you can help somebody regardless of if they look perfectly healthy from the outside.
Yeah, well, thank you both for sharing the story today about the donation and the recipient side. It's really nice to be able to speak to both of you about it. It's amazing. Thank you guys. I'm just so happy for both of you that this worked out, and it's just really important for us if we're able to go ahead and do the swab so that we can potentially be the match for someone. So thank you guys both.
Yeah, please sign up today.
Yay!
We have swab kits here.
All right. And everyone, if you haven't